Rays of the golden morning sun filtered through the draped windows of the small kitchen, casting a warm glow over the cluttered table, where George sat flipping through a worn-out photo album. Each page turned was like a whisper from the past, echoing memories long sealed. Across from him sat his teenage son, Harry, his head buried in a screen as so often it was. That was the summer of '85, George mused aloud, pointing to a picture of himself as a young boy. Harry glanced up briefly, nodding politely though his mind was elsewhere. George sighed inwardly but was determined. It had been a while since they'd truly connected. "You know, your grandfather and I had a tradition every autumn," he continued, hoping to coax Harry into conversation. "We'd head to that little cabin in the woods, just the two of us." Harry offered a half-smile. "Sounds nice," he replied, trying not to sound dismissive, but failing slightly as his attention strayed back to the screen. The words "sounds nice" nodded George. His father's legacy deserved more than faint interest. "What if we go there this weekend?" George offered, suddenly inspired. "Just the two of us. Carry on the tradition." Harry hesitated. His weekends were sacred time with friends and foes on the digital battlefield. But one glance at his father prompted a change of heart. "Sure, Dad. Why not?" Harry conceded. The journey began on an overcast Saturday morning, the car sliding through the familiar winding roads that George had traveled a million times before with his own father. The trip was filled with the usual banter. By noon, the duo arrived at the quaint cabin, nestled amongst towering trees that bore witness to years gone by. The air was crisp, carrying with it the scent of pine, and the tranquil silence was interrupted only by the gentle rustle of leaves. Unpacking the car, George couldn't help but feel a twinge of nostalgia, the weight of tradition settling comfortably on his shoulders. Harry, on the other hand, seemed wary, like an explorer stepping onto unknown lands. Their first fishing attempt that afternoon was met with more snags than catches, yet even the laughter shared over tangled lines and slippery escapes felt like a victory. As dusk arrived, they sat by the small fire they managed to kindle outside the cabin. George watched his son closely, past the flickers of flame that danced in his eyes. "Strange being away from it all, isn't it?" he asked. "Yeah," Harry admitted. "It's different, but it's kinda nice." George nodded, satisfied. "You know, my father used to say something to me every time we came out here," he continued, his voice distant yet tender. He'd say, "In the silence, you hear the truth, son." Never understood it fully when I was your age, but it stayed with me. Harry contemplated the words, letting them hang in the cool night air. "I think I get it," he replied eventually, a hint of curiosity and thoughtfulness in his tone. The next day, they hiked to a nearby hill, the climb filled with lively chatter and shared stories. At the top, they paused, taking in the vast expanse, the horizon painted in hues of blue and green. "It's beautiful up here," Harry acknowledged, his eyes wide with awe. "It really is," George agreed. "And it's even better when shared." "That's what I wanted to tell you, Harry," he said, turning to face his son. "It's not just about the place or the tradition, but about us. Moments like these are what stay with you. I know things are different now, with everything online and fast-paced." Harry nodded, understanding lighting up his features. "I won't, Dad. Thanks for bringing me here, for sharing this with me." Grinning, George clapped a hand on Harry's back. "We'll make our own memories, son," he promised. As they descended the hill, a newfound bond enveloped them, one that transcended silence and screens. Harry smiled, thankful for this time with his father, for the learning and laughter, for traditions passed down, and those yet to be created.